So I am going to tell the story of my heart transplant that I had when I was 16 years old, which was 7 years ago. I'm now 23. And so this has kind of been a long journey, and I obviously can't tell the whole 7 year, like from then till now, what's been happening, but I'm just gonna get into the main, I guess, important parts of it. So to start, just a little bit of my background. I mean, I grew up here in Southern California. I grew up doing dance. I did gymnastics as well. I lived a very active lifestyle. My mom has been in the fitness industry for a while, and so we were always just me and my sisters were always very active growing up as kids. The only health complications that I had growing up were migraines. I got migraines from when I was 8 years old, and even now, I still get them. And so that was pretty much the only thing, health-wise, that I suffered with from a young age. And then, as far as my heart, everything was healthy until in junior high. I don't know if you guys had this wherever you're at, but at my school at least, we had to run weekly miles in PE. And so I was running the weekly mile on a Friday. I think that's when we had them. And I was feeling fine. Started the mile, I was feeling okay. But then I felt towards the end of it, middle end of it, that something was off. And I was kind of like, okay, I'm just gonna hurry up and finish and get to the end. That way I can rest and just drink some water and chill out. But unfortunately, I didn't make it to the end of that run. I made it to the end, and I had my PE coach, my dance coach, collect my time. And then I was thinking, okay, I need to make it to the blacktop so that I could sit down because I'm gonna pass out. I just knew I was gonna pass out. So I didn't make it to the blacktop. Instead, after left from giving my time, I passed out and fell face first on that blacktop. And it was such a crazy moment. I was out for around 10 seconds. And during those 10 seconds, I will tell you, it was the most peaceful experience of my life. I felt so at peace during those 10 seconds, I was taking a beautiful nap. And then, I got up or woke up, and there was a frenzy. All of my teammates were gathered around me, freaking out, wondering what happened. My coach was right next to me, and she was trying to help me out. When I fell, I had bit into my lip. I had buck teeth at that time, and so I bit into my bottom lip, and so there was blood all over my gym shirt. And I just was I was irritated because I'm first off, you just interrupted the best sleep of my life. And then I was what is going on? What is happening? So they gave me a wheelchair. I got rushed to the nurse's office where I sat and waited for someone to pick me up. So fast forwarding, that day my mom and I went to urgent care, the local urgent care in our city, and they told me, after checking me out, they said, oh, she's just dehydrated. And so we were okay, cool, let me drink more water. So my mom went to the store, picked me up a bunch of water, and I just was drinking water again and again and again that day. And just further from that, my goal was to drink a lot of water, be very hydrated. And so yeah, and then I was also having dizzy spells at that point, which I didn't really tell anyone because I'm a very private person, and if I have a problem, I like to just deal with it on my own rather than bring it up, because I don't know, I've just always been like that. So I was having dizzy spells. I was also having heart palpitations at that time, but I didn't know what they were. I just know that my heart felt funny, and I just didn't tell anyone, like I said. And so I kept doing dance. I was dancing a lot at that time because I was on my school's team, as well as was I on my studio? Yeah, I think I was on my dance studios team at that time as well. Yes, and so I was dancing a lot, which was not good for my heart, but we didn't know that at the time. And so I passed out again at a dance competition. Luckily that time I didn't fall to the ground or hurt myself. I had my mom and my sister next to me, so they were able to like help me. But I still kept dancing because we just thought, oh, it's just dehydration. She just needs more water. And so, I don't know. I like parts of the story are foggy to me because, well, one, it was 7, 8, 9 years ago, and then also with everything that I went through, which I'll get to, a lot of my memory is lost from that time. So it's been like a rebuilding process of trying to remember things, but then also there are things that I don't want to remember because it was traumatic. So I'm grateful for the things that I can't remember as well. And so, sorry, I have my notes that I wrote out over here. So yeah, so then after all these passing out spells, my parents were like, okay, this is not just dehydration because she's been drinking a ton of water. Let's take her in, see what's going on. So I got taken to my primary care doctor. She noticed something funny, so then I got referred to different specialists who basically after like appointment after appointment after appointment, I finally got to a diagnosis of restrictive cardiomyopathy, which is a rare form of cardiomyopathy, in which I don't know all the medical stuff. I was an English major, so, but basically my heart was, I think the walls around it were really thick. I think that's what it was. I also choose not to think too much about my old heart because I got a new heart, thank the Lord. And so, yeah, I had that diagnosis, and the doctor that I was seeing told me, you have to stop all physical activity. And I was like, what? Like, I loved dance. I loved doing dance. I grew up doing it, and I had all these goals for myself. I had wanted to do dance team in high school. I wanted to just like keep doing dance and into, I don't know, like maybe a career in it. I was devastated when I heard that news. It was just like, yeah, it was just very, very difficult for a 14, 15-year-old girl to hear that she has to stop all physical activity, stop doing the one thing that she loves to do, and that means that I also have to leave my dance community at my studio. And it was really hard, but you know, doctor's orders, so I had to stop. And at that time, also, when he told me about my condition, he also said that I had to be put on the heart transplant list, which that's a wild thing also to hear when you're 14, 15 years old. And so, that was just like, it was just a very difficult time in my life. But because I didn't dance, or I couldn't dance anymore, I got involved in other things. I got really involved with the leadership team at my high school. I really got into drawing. I loved sewing, and I then had the dream, okay, I can't dance, I'm gonna become a fashion designer. I loved fashion, and I still do, but I would do like fashion illustration. I would like look at books on like fashion, and I also did a lot of journaling at this time. I did journaling before my diagnosis when we knew something was up and I was going to all the doctor's appointments, and then I also did journaling after the diagnosis while I was waiting for my heart, which I'm so glad that I did that because now I can look back on those and like have those to refer to things like making this video or for writing projects in the future, hopefully. And so, yeah, so I just did all that stuff, but one thing that I did that I was not supposed to is I was working out on the side secretly. Um, at that age, you know, you're going through a lot of changes. You're kind of feeling awkward in life. And so my body was going through changes as well, as gross as that sounds. And so I, with the stopping dance and all physical activity, I was like, man, I'm just getting like bigger, which I wasn't. Like I've always, yeah, I just wasn't getting bigger. I looked like a normal 15-year-old girl, but whatever. So I would close my door and I would get on the floor and just start doing sit-ups, doing lunges, doing whatever. And then I would feel palpitations and I would be like, okay, I'm done. I'm gonna stop. So that was just not what I was supposed to be doing. And then, this was like a few months after my diagnosis, I had a cardiac arrest at my house. At this point in the story, I don't have any memory of these following events that I'm going to tell you, but I collected these from my dad, who was posting on Facebook a lot during this time, and then also just other family members and other people. And so, yeah, all the stuff that I'm going to be telling you kind of in this point, just know that it's kind of spotty for me. But yeah, so I had a cardiac arrest at home. I was rushed to the hospital, to the closest hospital to me, not the one that I was going to for my treatments. And I know that I had to get CPR multiple times, and I was just in critical condition in the intensive care unit, the pediatric ICU. And so, like I said, I was out for all of this. I was not aware that any of this was happening by the grace of God. And so these are the things that I wrote down that have been told to me. I had multiple procedures during this time, such as being put on ECMO, but at an ECMO machine, I don't know exactly what that does, but I know that when I was going to be put on it, the doctors told my dad, like, there's a chance that she won't survive this. And they told him it's like a 10% chance that she'll not survive this, like being put on this machine. And then after I was put on the machine and I did survive it, hallelujah, the doctors went back and told my dad, actually it was more like a 1% chance that she was gonna survive it. And so that's just a crazy part of the story. But yeah, I had breathing tubes inserted. I think one of the machines, I don't know if it was ECMO or a different machine that I was put on, it caused my right leg to swell up a lot, so they were gonna have to amputate it. But instead of amputating it, it was cut open on both sides to reduce the swelling that was happening. So I do have scars on both sides of this leg. I also have tons of scars, like all over my body, on my neck, hands, like everywhere. And during this time, in my community, there were a ton of people praying, my dance community, at both, the studio that I went to. My two sisters, they also did dance. So their studio was also praying, and my church, my dad's a pastor, and so that church was praying. Other churches were praying. Like, I'm telling you, when I heard about all of this, I just wasn't even aware of all the people that had been praying for me and that were part of my story. Even today, at this point, seven years later, I have people come up to me and say, "Hey, are you Lexi? I was praying for you." And it's just so incredible. And yeah, so many people. And part of it was because of my dad posting on Facebook. Um, those Facebook posts got a lot of like views and likes because people were really wanting to know what was happening on, or what was happening in my story, like the updates. And so that was getting a lot of attention. And then also, someone started the hashtag Love for Lexi. There's another hashtag Pray for Lexi, but I think the Love for Lexi one was more popular, and so that like spread my story around. As I said, my high school was very involved. They were doing like they were supporting the story a lot, and the story got to like great like bigger news when a now famous basketball player that went to my school, at one of the games, I think they had a game that was like a Love for Lexi game, but it was just part of like the seasonal basketball games. And at that game, he did like a 92 points. Clearly I don't know about basketball, but I just know that there was like a 92 point game. And so that made like sports news because it was like, oh wow, this high schooler shot 92 points. This is like wild. And he dedicated that to me because it was like the game that was dedicated to me. So that also like just made the story go way wider. And it's just incredible, just like taking a step back and now 7 years out, just to see how God was working through all of this. Like literally every different community, every like school, churches from around the world. My family is, I have family from all over. And so my grandparents that live in Africa, they were praying, their church community was praying. So I have people praying all around the world for me. And it makes me emotional because now, at the point I'm at with my faith, I'm just so aware of how much power there is in prayer. And so just for one person to say, I'm going to take some time out of my day to pray for this young girl who is on the brink of death, that's just, there's so much power in just that one prayer. And also the Lord sees that and he wants to honor the prayers. And yeah, it's just so amazing to see that. And so during all of this, I was still in critical condition. It was not looking good for me. So I just know my family, yeah, they were having a hard time. That's all I'll say. I wasn't there for it, or I wasn't aware, but I know now that it was obviously very hard on them. But then the happy day came on March 6th, 2017, where I got my brand new heart. And so that was obviously like big celebration, like, wow, this is so amazing. All these prayers have been answered. And God just did an amazing thing. And yeah, that's just all I have to say about that. And it's so cool because when I was in the ICU, the verse that was above my door was Ezekiel 36:26, which says, he will place a new heart in you, replace your heart of stone with a heart of flesh. And the doctors had said that my old heart was so diseased that it looked like stone. And I actually got to see my old heart in person. And it literally, I kid you not, it was so big. Like, I could not believe that thing was inside of my little 15-year-old body. And it just looked so diseased. And so, yeah, it was just crazy seeing that. And then so after the hospital, you know, because of everything that I went through, being on ECMO, being on these other machines, I lost mobility in my legs. I couldn't stand up on my own. I also had damage to my vocal cords from the first hospital that they brought me to when it was like after the first cardiac arrest. They put breathing tubes in, but I think when they were taking them out, they damaged my vocal cords. And so I had to get speech therapy. And then occupational therapy as well, because I didn't have the ability like to do the fine motor functions, like picking up like water to drink it, or fork to eat my food, or writing. Writing was very difficult for me. You should see my handwriting at that time. It was like all over the place. And so I did some rehab while I was in the hospital, but then I got placed in an an inpatient rehab facility where I did some more. And essentially I learned to walk again. I learned to talk again. I learned to write again. And I learned to do like things like telling time again. I didn't know who the president was. So I learned who the president was. I learned like just all these kind of like basic facts that like me before the hospital would have known. So they were just like reteaching me. And so the Lord fully restored both my body and my brain. And it's like he didn't have to do that. Like that's the thing. Like he could have just given me the new heart, and that would have been amazing. Like just such a testament to his glory and his power. But he not only restored my heart, he restored everything about me. The fact that I'm able to sit here right now in my room and speak to you all right now, or whoever's listening, it's just so amazing. Like this should not, in man's understanding, it should not have happened. But God's ways are higher than our ways. And so after I didn't add this in my notes, but I'm just gonna add it here to tell you guys a little bit more of the story. But after getting out of rehab, I still did outpatient rehab for a little bit, but this is just such a beautiful part of the story as well. So obviously during this whole craziness, I wasn't in school, and so once I was like aware enough to like realize, oh yeah, I'm a student and I'm in school, oh my gosh, what about school? I was really nervous about being able to end the year on the original timeline. It was my second semester of my sophomore year that all of this happened. And so everything started February 3rd. That's when the first cardiac arrest happened. Got my heart March 6th. And then, I didn't actually go home until Easter of that year. And so I missed a good chunk of school. So I had to see someone, I forgot what the term for it is, but it was a teacher that went to my house and taught me from there. And it was so hard. Like, I felt so like useless. Before everything happened, I was like a very good student. I got very good grades. I had great memory, like great test taking skills, and I was just like, I had my sights set on like big schools, right? And so after getting back home, I was so defeated. And during the schooling, in homeschooling, I kept thinking like, I'm so stupid, and I'm never gonna make it. Like, how am I gonna retain all this information when it feels like something goes in my brain and leaves it the second after it goes in? And I was so worried about school and just about being with my friends, and I just wanted to get back to normal life. But the Lord is so good. I was able to finish. Oh my gosh, okay. I hate crying. I hate it. I was able to finish school on time with okay grades. I think I got like A's and B's. I also think that teacher had sympathy on me. And so she was very much like, okay, you're just gonna pass this even though it's not exactly like all correct. But then I was able to start junior year on time, and junior year was hard for me, but I was able to get through it, able to get through senior year. and I graduated on time with my friends. And not only did I graduate on time for that, I was able to go to college, and I was able to graduate from college with a degree I loved. And I graduated from college originally when I thought I was going to graduate too, the same year. And so part of the reason I'm crying also is because I'm thinking about the people, the kids who have been in my situation, and it didn't end up the same way. Either they didn't survive it, or they just they weren't able to go back to schooling at the same time, and it just didn't work out the same way that it did for me. And it makes me really sad and heartbroken for them, but I also know that the Lord is God of all, and he has his own story for those people, just like he has for me. And so in all of this, one of the worries that I had before transplant, like in the waiting period between getting the diagnosis and waiting for the transplant to happen, I was really worried about, just the different things like, will my personality change with this new heart? Will my eating habits change? Like, will this change? Will this change? I had all these questions, and I was so nervous and so anxious. I was looking stuff up on the internet, which the doctor had told me not to do, but I did it anyways, and I was so nervous. And there's even things today that make me nervous, like such as the lifespan of someone with a heart transplant, but that's also stuff where I'm just giving it to the Lord. It's not up to me. Nothing in my story is up to me. And so it's cool now to see that all my biggest fears, they honestly did come true. I did almost die multiple times. I did have to learn how to walk, read, write, talk again. And I did have to re-enter into society. Like, everything changed. But I'm so glad that it did, because in that verse, Ezekiel 36:26, I will give you a new heart. I will replace your heart of stone with a heart of flesh. It is actually, I have my Bible right here. I'm gonna look it up because I want to get the exact wording for it. Okay, 26. Moreover, I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you, and I will remove the heart of stone from your flesh and give you a heart of flesh. And I'm going to read the verse after, 27. And I will put my spirit within you and bring it about that you walk in my statutes and are careful and follow my ordinances. Yeah, that's so good. But so not only did the Lord give me a new heart, put a new spirit in me, and the heart of stone that I had, not really being close to the Lord, wanting really nothing to do with him after getting out of my house, he totally took that away, and he restored everything. And because of what happened, all my plans were thwarted. Just totally, God was like, no, we're not gonna have you do that. Actually, you're gonna go this way because I told you so. And so I needed to be broken down so much because God knows that I have a strong, stubborn, rebellious spirit. I needed to be broken down so I could be built back up in the Lord's name. And so I'm just so grateful for that in hindsight. And I'm just grateful for the continuous ways in which he breaks me down in order to build me back up in his name. But yeah, that's just a small part of my story. There's so many other little parts of it that I can get into, but for sake of time and for the sake of my emotions, I will not. But maybe, I don't know, I'm not a YouTuber, but maybe I'll make another video if the Lord wants me to. But okay, thanks for listening. If you listened, please pray for me. both for my health and then also for my continued health. I'm doing good right now, but also for the Lord's guidance and what He wants me to do for my future. So